Last year here at Spike Week, we nailed the 2024 NBA playoffs. The whole bracket, although we had the Knicks over the Pacers, had the Mavs in the finals. We crushed last year's NBA playoffs, and we're going to try to do it again. It's a little trickier this year, but we're going to see if we can't run it back with a really successful NBA playoff season. We're going to get into strategy, what's different between Underdog and Drafters, hop in a couple drafts, and see if we can't put all the pieces together from our bracket, our player takes, and everything there in between. Let's do it. All right, guys, welcome back. It's NBA season. I know that the NFL draft is about to be here. Everybody's excited for peak summer, hot best ball summer. But before we get there, we got to handle some NBA playoff. I love NBA playoff best ball. It's one of my favorite, maybe my absolute favorite format of best ball. The strategy, if you've never played NBA playoff best ball before, we're going to break it down really quick. Of course, like any old best ball draft, it's a snake draft. You draft your full roster of team, 10 players on Underdog, 12 players on Drafters. You try to score the most points on Underdog. You're trying to score the most points in the first round, and then you move on, and then you try to score the most points in the second round against your pod opponents. Make your way all the way to the finals, and in the dance on Underdog, it's $50,000 to first place. Of course, that has some nuances to it, right? If a team gets eliminated, if you draft LeBron James and the Lakers lose, you don't get to replace LeBron James. You use LeBron James on your team the rest of the playoffs. Guys that may help you in the first round may not be available later. So, of course, we want to get matchups of the players in the finals, especially on Underdog. You're absolutely going to need a full roster of players from the two teams that make the NBA finals. Of course, one from the East and one from the West. So it's a little bit different game to over on Drafters, where we're scoring the most amount of points against every single other team in the entire tournament over the course of every round of the NBA playoffs. Now, the scoring does reset each week, each round, I should say. Meaning it doesn't reset for the whole tournament, but your scores from round one do not carry over into round two. So, you may use LeBron James score in the first round. Say they lose, you can use someone. You'll have to use someone else's score in the next round. It doesn't accumulate, right? Like a traditional best ball format, but your points do stack up, and you try to make your way all the way to the top. On Drafters, you may not totally need a full, depending upon who makes the finals. It's certainly possible that you do not need a full roster. It's also more difficult to get a full roster on Drafters. On Underdog, you start one guard, one wing, one big, and two flex players. So 5 total starters, but you have a little bit of flexibility, right? Only needing one of each position. On Drafters, you start 2 guards and 2 forwards, a center, and 1 flex. So it's a lot stricter in terms of, yes, you only start one more player, but they have to be 2 guards and 2 forwards as opposed to the flex options. So it's possible on Drafters, which we'll do some of these drafts here at the end. It's possible that you don't need something full, and some of those players that may get knocked out in round one can be more valuable on Drafters when the first round is 25% of your score. It's probably going to be more than 25% of your total points, but it's a big part of your final score. You need to score well in round one. It's still going to be very important to be scoring in the finals, because if you have a full roster in the finals, you can pass a lot of teams that you're near, because so many, most of the players that were drafted are no longer playing, right? So we'll get into all that here in just a minute. We're going to start with nothing about either site. We're going to do a draft and talk a little bit of strategy about Underdog and about Drafters. But we're going to start with let's talk about this year's NBA playoffs. I mentioned in the open that last year, if we don't celebrate our wins, who's going to? Can't have a much better NBA playoff last year. I got 3 teams through to the finals of the dance. I had what we would call like the second nuts. There was 1 or 2 team. I forget exactly what the final winning roster was. Had basically the stone cold nuts. It was very, very difficult to get the Boston Celtics through to the finals because they just did not play games. Other teams are playing 7 games and the Celtics are playing 4 in like most of these rounds, maybe 5 in these rounds. So you were just really not even using the Celtics score until the finals. Now the conference final is a little different, but you get the point. It's possible that we have one of those scenarios again, and it's a little bit different this year. But last year, Mavericks were our pick to make it out of the West. They obviously get there. The Pacers were our kind of, all the Pacers were my highest owned players. We were extremely high above market on there. There are a few teams similar to Pacers, and of course the Knicks. That was the stands. Mavs, Pacers, Knicks used those teams to get the Celtics through to the finals. That worked beautifully. This year, it is a little bit different. I'll pull up my bracket here in just a second. You can find all of this content that I share here today on the website, on spikeweek.com, either in the menu under strategy or, of course, just on the homepage. It is also posted. Every article gets posted and you get a notification in the Discord. It is free. There's a link in the description to come hang out. We have NBA channels in there for you to come talk strategy. We have a game day channel where we all just hang out, enjoy the game, and sweat the games together and maybe make fun of some players and maybe celebrate some players. So it's not always just best ball. You can hang out with some basketball fans as well. But last year, I referenced last year because I want to compare the two. And last year, I know that, it's easy to say in hindsight, but it was pretty straightforward in terms of like how we might want to think about how this will play out. The Celtics in the East, starting there, were so head and shoulders above the field that it was really hard to envision a scenario in which the Celtics did not make the finals. We really like the Pacers. We really like the Knicks. This year's Cavaliers team, which we'll get to, it wasn't this, right? They were not ready. They did not take this level of a leap. And so it was really just like Celtics or bust. So on one hand, that makes it tricky because like you can't get the Celtics that you want in every single draft. But on the other hand, it made it pretty straightforward where in the East, we're betting on the Celtics to make the championship last year. We don't care who wins it, but we're betting on them to make it. Once we assume that, we figure out how to use those other teams, Pacers, Knicks, etc., to get our Celtics through and try to make the best ball finals with as good of a Celtics team as we can. In the West, it was certainly a little more wide open because as good as the Thunder were as the 1 seed, they were not this Thunder team, right? They were very good, but there was they did not have Hartenstein and Caruso. These young players had not taken these leaps. It was a very good Thunder team, but nothing to this level. Even Shea wasn't this good last year. So that's why we picked the Mavericks to beat the Thunder in the second round. Again, easy to say in hindsight, Minnesota was kind of a slam dunk to me over Phoenix, as we've seen now. I certainly feel justified in the Phoenix Suns takes from last year. The team is just, it is what it is. We don't got to get into the Phoenix Suns here today. We're here to talk about the real playoff teams. But, Nuggets, obviously, there was only a couple of teams in the West, in my opinion, that could, of course, the Nuggets with Jokic could do it. I thought Minnesota was right there. And of course, the Mavs were our favorite. So it was kind of easy, if you will, not easy to build the winning teams. I drafted like 75 teams or something like that. And still only got 3, right? Which is great to get 3 into the final. But still, there was lots of teams that died along the way. You still have to have the draft break your way to get those teams. And you got to put the pieces together. You got to get some pod luck, et cetera, et cetera. But it was a little more straightforward. And like, the West is really good, but it's still probably only, maybe 3, maybe 4 teams. Maybe you like the Lakers more than I did or whatever. It was really condensed. And then you just had the Celtics and you figure out how to use these other teams. This year, starting in the East, the East is simpler than the West, but more complicated than last year's Eastern Conference. The Celtics are the favorite. They should be the favorite, which is hilarious because they're the 2 seed, but nonetheless, the Celtics are the favorite. But the Cavaliers have emerged as a true, real second contender from the Eastern Conference. I think you will see some of my exposures when we pull this up and you see them in the draft hacker in real time. But the Celtics are that favorite, but the Cavaliers, they split the season series. The Cavaliers have taken a major step forward. Evan Mobley is a significantly better player than he was last year. Darius Garland, if you recall, it's kind of one of the under the radar things that I think is really important in terms of the Cavs actually having a chance. Darius Garland's a really good basketball player. Last year, he broke his jaw and, was eating from a straw essentially for most of the season. He came back and he was just not the same. You break your jaw and you lose a bunch of weight as a small guard as it is. He's their second best perimeter player. And he just couldn't really recover. They also did not have this Ty Jerome dealio off the bench. Apparently, Ty Jerome is the second coming of I don't even know, the best Manu Ginobili, I guess, is what Ty Jerome is becoming. They did have Max Strus. They did not have DeAndre Hunter. These are huge pieces in a playoff perspective, from a playoff perspective, especially when you're playing the Boston Celtics, who have all, apex predator wing scorers in Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, not having, having to play Isaac Okoro more than you want to, having to play Chetty Osman or Karis LeVert or these guys and have them guard them. They were not ready. The Cavs were not. Now they are. And we saw that in the regular season. As you'll see in my bracket, I, of course, have picked the Celtics to come out of there, but I'm not doing what I did last year in terms of building for like everything being the Celtics are coming out of here. I will be building some Cavaliers teams. Now, the rest of these, it's a little bit similar to last year in this regard. As you see here now, I'll zoom in a little bit. What my Eastern Conference bracket looks like, of course, in the first round, all the best teams advancing. Cavs, Pacers, Knicks, and Celtics. So quite just being straight up honest, I don't want to sit here and talk about absolutely every single team for 20 minutes. We don't have that kind of time. But the Pistons, I think the Pistons will be a little bit feisty against the Knicks. The Pistons are fun. They play hard. They're very physical. Cade is an absolute superstar. I love me some Jalen Duren. Malik Beasley is really fun to watch. I don't think the Knicks are going to sweep the Pistons by any stretch of the imagination. And if I get one wrong in the first round, the Pistons would be the team I would say I see that happening the easiest. The Bucks, you say, we're doing this one again. Pacers, Bucks. Last year, that was one that was a little bit more controversial, taking a big stand on the Pacers. This year, I think it's a little bit more straightforward. The Bucks don't have Damian Lillard, at least to start this. He just today got cleared from his blood clot, and he's just now off of blood thinning medication. So he's still going to have to get back to practice, get into shape. Is the series over by the time he even gets back? I love Giannis Antetokounmpo. Who doesn't? But Chris Middleton is gone. Kyle Kuzma is not. Chris Middleton, certainly from a playoff perspective, in filling in for what they need without Damian Lillard. Kevin Porter Jr. has been playing well down the stretch, but just quite frankly, this roster just isn't that good around Giannis. We saw it last year. Of course, Giannis was hurt, but the rest of the roster just isn't that good. Can technically Giannis do anything and do like what we'll talk about with Jokic with the Nuggets? Sure, of course. He's Giannis. He's one of the best players on the planet. But the Pacers have also improved this year. The likes of Mathurin being available, Nembhard, Obi Toppin taking a leap. I think Jarris Walker is actually playable in this series, which might be important considering the Pacers don't play a backup center. They play small ball after if Miles Turner is on the bench. But we got Siakam, we got Halliburton playing at an incredible level. Nesmith is a pretty awesome NBA 3-and-D type player. I just think that the Pacers, outside of Giannis being the best player in this series, but they have the next best, at least two, the next best two for sure, maybe the next best three with Miles Turner. I just think the Pacers have a significantly better roster. They're actually a pretty good playoff team, as we saw last year. I know they got swept by the Celtics, but Halliburton missed the last 2 games. They went to overtime in game 1. They were winning in the fourth quarter of 3, late into the fourth quarter in 3 of the 4 games against Boston. It was a sweep in number only. It wasn't, just the Celtics running over the Pacers, even without Tyrese Halliburton. So I think those 4 teams in the East are pretty clear. I can't, as we move on to the semifinals, I can't pick the Pacers over the Cavs, and I don't think the Knicks have any chance against the Celtics. I like the Knicks last year. Their offense is much better. I mean, you insert Karl Anthony Towns, Jalen Brunson is back. Another year of Deuce off the bench, and Mikal Bridges. It's a really good offense. The problem that they have is they have 2 massive weak links on defense in Towns and Brunson, huge negatives, and the Celtics don't have any. And when the Celtics have spots to pick at, and especially when it's a point guard and a center, it's really, really difficult for the Knicks to get enough stops against Boston to really compete in that series. Nonetheless, win 4 of 7. So I'll probably be betting the Celtics minus 1.5 games in that series. The Knicks didn't really compete with the Celtics this year, and I think that one's kind of a slam dunk for the Celtics. They got a good draw. If they were to draw the Pacers in the second round, again, I would pick the Boston Celtics, but nonetheless, I do think the Pacers. I wrote about in a couple of these articles. I wrote that I'm picking the Cavs, but the Pacers have a chance. So when we start to think about that in terms of how do we we're going to need to get our Celtics through. We might need to get Thunder through. How do we get guys through? I think the Pacers are yet again this year the best option to do that in the East. Tyrese Halliburton, Pascal Siakam, Miles Turner. I have drafted some Nembhard and Nesmith, and I think you can draft these Pacers as, advancement pieces. Of course, we would prefer Halliburton, Siakam, and Turner because they're going to score the most fantasy points. But I think that the Pacers, yet again this year, kind of fit that mold of the ideal Eastern Conference, like one-off team that, they could get back to the conference finals, but even if we only get 2 rounds out of them, they can help our Celtics and they can help our Cavaliers. Maybe they could help our Thunder get through. It's how I'm thinking about them. Then I do have the Celtics beating the Cavs, but again, I'm going to be drafting some Cavs guys as well. I'm going to be more heavily exposed into the Celtics for sure. But the Cavaliers are definitely a team that I'm going to get exposure to. I think I said I'm going to be at the field or something like that on the Cavs, but just overweight on the Celtics. Quickly before we get into the West, yes, amen, Jamie. Deja vu. It does. The West is not deja. The West is like the total opposite of last year, and the East is wash, rinse, repeat. Other than the Cavs. Some more. I'll get to this, Artem, when we get to some drafter stuff. Amen. Good Lord, if this is the comment that steals the show. This time of year, playoff basketball. I'm a big hockey fan. You see a St. Louis Blues Stanley Cup, and there's some autographed pucks and all sorts of stuff over here. I'm a diehard Blues fan. Blues are back in the playoffs, so I love playoff hockey anyway. But now my St. Louis Blues are back in the playoffs. We're the 8th seed. It's probably not going to go well, but I'm just happy. I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers of the NHL playoffs this year with the Blues. Just happy to be here, man. They don't care. I don't really care how it goes. It's been a few years. It's been a painful few years, but I'm just happy to be back in the playoffs. So we got playoff basketball, playoff hockey, the 2 greatest playoff sports that exists. Sorry, baseball, sorry, football. And it's actually nice outside. It's going to be 80 degrees here in St. Louis tomorrow. God bless. What a wonderful, wonderful time. I will quickly shout out to our rankings. If you are a premium subscriber, let me share my screen here with the rankings so you can get a little sneak peek at what they look like. You can download rankings from within our little rankings hub, right? See rankings NBA on your screen here. You also get a change log of I had a little screw up on Andrew Nembhard there, so the change looks a little over the top. Nonetheless, for drafters. And if you click this drop down, you can get Underdog. You can download them right here. Got to can't be zoomed all the way in to see the download button, but you'll see it right there next to that drop down. And yeah, you can look at by each position and see what the rankings are. And if you are a subscriber, you get everything, right? That you're not paying that $40 a month just for NBA playoff content. You get everything, right? You get all the tools, the Draft Hacker, which you'll see here, Draft IQ, which is clutch for the NBA playoffs, and all of our NFL content, NFL rankings. We haven't unfortunately been able to get to NHL this year, but we'll have MLB playoffs. We'll have everything, right? So you get every single piece of content, every ranking for every site and every sport and format, eliminator and superflex and everything, all one low price. So make sure to check that out. A link to that is also in the description. Let's go back to our bracket so we can get through that, and then we'll talk a little underdog strategy, and then we will hop into an underdog draft. We'll do that. That's what we'll kind of do. Underdog strat, draft in the dance, drafter strat, hop in the drafters tournament. So in the West is certainly, I will guarantee, where I am the most different from the market. We'll start at the top. I have, of course, Thunder over the Kings, which of course it is not the Kings, but you get the point. It's the Mavs. I haven't updated this since last night. My God, the Kings stink. Can we at least just put that out there? What a disastrous. They were the 3 seed just a couple years ago, took the Warriors to the brink and just ruined their franchise. They just decided to become the Chicago Bulls, as if anybody would want to be the last 3 years of the Chicago Bulls. The Kings just said, yeah, sure, we'll take all your crappy guys that no one else wants and turn into this Sabonis, Levine, DeRozan disaster. I know Malik Monk was out, but he wasn't going to win them that game last night. Devin Carter actually looks really good for a rookie. Keegan has gotten better, although Keegan played quite poorly last night. The Kings, what a mess. So anyway, this is Thunder over Mavs. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Even with Kyrie Irving, I'm not picking the Mavs over the Thunder. Arguably the greatest regular season, one of the greatest regular seasons, not necessarily from a wins-loss perspective, but net rating, all that kind of stuff. The Thunder are outstanding, and we'll get to it. I'll go ahead and spoil it here. They're going to be my pick to come out of the West. I understand the experience concerns and all of that, but this team has Hartenstein now. This team has Caruso. Shea has been in the playoffs multiple different times. This core has been there now and lost. And I mean, there's going to be dudes that don't get in the rotation for the Thunder that would probably they're playing the Mavs in the first round that would start for the Mavs. That would be the 6th man on the Nuggets. Like that might start for the Lakers, or would be the 6th man for the Lakers. Like they have, I mean, Isaiah Joe and like Jalen Williams, like we may talk about him at some point. Not Jay Will, right? Like I always screw it up, which one is anyway, with a Y, the big man, Jalen Williams. He's not going to play. He's not going to be in the rotation in this series. They'll play their 2 centers and they'll play their perimeter guys with Caruso, Aaron Wiggins, Isaiah Joe, and Cason Wallace. Like they're not going to play 10 guys. Jalen Williams, every time he gets a chance, he's going to triple double in these games, and he's not going to sniff the floor in the NBA playoffs. The Thunder, just not to mention how many picks they have coming down the pipeline. Like we've never seen a franchise in any sport be the best team in the league, or give or take, the best team in the league. The entire team is young, the youngest team in the league, and they have 4,000 picks coming down the stretch. It's like, what, man, shout out to the Thunder fans. What a time to be. Yeah, exactly. And shout out to me. I bet on Jalen Williams player props in all of those games. Yeah, granted, he did miss the game 82. He hurt his ankle 2 minutes in, but which is another cause for concern, by the way. Jalen Williams just sprained his ankle in the final game. But anyway, yeah, dude's triple doubling when everybody else is resting every time in like 30 minutes. and that guy's not going to play in the playoffs. Anyway, enough about the Thunder. Let's get to Clips Nugs, because I think that's Clippers Nuggets is probably the most compelling first round. There's two of them. Really, all the rest of these outside of Thunder Mavs. But we'll start with the 4-5. The winner, of course, gets the Thunder. So both Clippers and Nuggets, I think, got the bad side. I think you would want to. I think you'd rather be 7 than you would be 4 or 5, which sounds crazy, but insane matchup. The Clippers. Bill Simmons said on the Zach Lowe show, I'm gonna slip up and call it the Low Posts most of the time. So just a heads up. But he said, and I mostly agree that this current version of the Clippers, with a fully healthy Kawhi Leonard, the way Kawhi is playing, the way Zubats is playing, the way Harden is playing, get Batum back, Norm, Bogdanovich off the bench, they're the second best team in the West. And so that's kind of where I stand. The Nuggets, we could certainly back them because they're inspired after, firing the coach and firing the GM. I just don't think they have enough around Jokic. And it's going to be a great series. This is not going to be a sweep. Jokic is going to do his thing. Just the Nuggets have been on this downward trend with not adding it, continually losing Bruce Brown and Jeff Green and KCP and Christian Brown. Shout out to him for really improving. But we replaced this with Russell Westbrook and Jalen Pickett. And it's just not enough when you're playing one of the best teams in the league, even with Jokic. It's going to be a great series. If the Nuggets win, I will not be surprised, but I'm picking the Clippers. The next one, more controversial, I think. I know everybody loves the Lakers. I'm taking Minnesota over the Lakers. This is the same one. Can the Lakers win the series? Yes, of course. They have Luka Doncic and LeBron James. And I always make sure to toss Austin Reeves in there. I think it's really unfair to how good Austin Reeves is for us to just call this a two-man show. I know the other two are the huge names, and they are certainly the better players than Austin Reeves, but that is a real big 3. That is not a big 2. That's a big 3, and that big 3 can beat anybody. So I would not be shocked if the Lakers win this series. That being said, I think the Lakers are a year away, assuming LeBron continues to be LeBron, which, Jesus Christ, how many years is this guy just going to keep being amazing? But the Lakers, kind of think about the fact that the Mark Williams trade didn't go through. If the Mark Williams trade goes through, I might be singing a different tune here, but the pieces around those 3 are just not there yet for the Lakers. They start Jackson Hayes at center, and he is a playoff liability. He can't guard on the perimeter. Basically, if you can't dribble, pass, or shoot, or guard on the perimeter, and he's not really that good of a rim protector. He's really athletic, but people don't fear. Anthony Edwards does not fear Jackson Hayes at the rim. This ain't, this ain't one of these superstar shot blockers. So he's already only playing most games 14 or 15 minutes. He's their new JaVale McGee. He's going to start the game. Hopefully he can catch a few lobs from Luka. That's what they're praying for. But they're going to play, as they did down the stretch, they're going to play almost exclusively small ball. So let's just put 15 minutes in for Jackson Hayes. 33 minutes of the game they're going to play some combination of the rest of their guys, of which there is not another center in the rotation. Call it whoever you want. Say DFS is playing center, Dorian Finney-Smith, or say Rui is the center, or LeBron's the center. It doesn't really matter. They're going to play 5. Now, they're not small. It's small ball in the fact that they don't have a center, but LeBron is huge. Luka is huge. DFS is like a modern power forward. Rui is a power forward. They're kind of playing 4 defensive power forwards. The problem with that is the offense is fine. The offense is great in those scenarios. The problem with that is they're so slow. So when you go to that small ball lineup, you have no rim protection, right? That's part of the small ball thing. You're going to make up for it by switching everything on defense, and you need to keep guys in front of you. They don't have a defender specifically for Anthony Edwards that, okay, switch, right? Let's go. They're going to go. Let's bring Luka guy, right? Who's Luka guarding? Luka's guarding Jaden McDaniels. All right. Jaden McDaniels, you're going to see Ant, point at Jaden McDaniels to come up and set a ball screen. Luka's going to switch. And Anthony Edwards is going to go at him and go at him and go at him. And if he gets by him, which, no offense to Luka, pretty slow feet. A lot of people get by him. I don't know if you watched the Celtics series last year. I don't know, most of the playoff series last year, when Luka switches on to a good perimeter player, and this is the case, Rui can't keep him. Like, Rui is not going to do it. No offense to LeBron. Like, these guys could maybe do it in small spurts over the course of a 7-game series. They don't have the foot speed, and then they have no rim protection behind. So you're either getting dunks or kick out threes, right? Whenever now Luka gets beat, everybody collapses in to try to take away the rim. Open three for Jaden McDaniels. Open three for Julius Randle, which maybe that's fine for the Lakers. Open three for Nickeil Alexander-Walker, right? Mike Conley, whatever. I just think that Minnesota has more versatility. I know people will talk about the Gobert thing. It's certainly, we don't want a series of Luka Doncic getting one-on-one on the perimeter with Rudy Gobert, but it's really overhyped. I think Alex is in the chat that posted the Jalen Williams comment, shared a great Twitter clip of every single possession from last year's playoffs when Rudy Gobert got switched out onto a perimeter player in isolation, and they scored 7 out of 24 times. We just remember all the big moments, and certainly Rudy Gobert is not some superstar perimeter defender, but we kind of romanticize those big moments, and Gobert is like a totally fine for a center, a totally fine guy. Like, oh shoot, he got switched on to Reeves here or whatever. He might get crossed up. Guess what? He's a 7-footer. Luka and these guys score on the best players on the planet, but then we bury Rudy Gobert because Luka scores on him. Luka made a really tough step back last year, and he's going to cook Gobert in this series. Okay, it's going to happen. So get ready. I just think that even if the Gobert thing is not right, exactly right, the possession before Luka made that three, Gobert got to stop. So I wanted to hit at that because I know it's a turn on ESPN. They're going to talk about Gobert, and Rudy brings a lot of this on himself. So you're not going to hear me crying for Rudy Gobert. That is for sure. But I think from our perspective, when we're analyzing these series, Minnesota's healthy now, right? So they traded Towns and got Randle and DiVincenzo. So they got 2 pieces. Randle is going to be kind of big in this series because he just has the size to match up with LeBron or Rui or whoever. DiVincenzo gives them another huge swing piece. Him and Alexander Walker off the bench. If Mike Conley is too small to play in this series, which he is, I already bet go bet Mike Conley's points plus rebounds plus assists unders for Saturday, by the way. I don't think this is the Conley series. I think he's going to really have his minutes scaled back so they can play the DiVincenzos, Alexander Walkers, etc. And have a little bit of more size, so the Lakers don't have someone to go pick on, right? Maybe other than Gobert or Naz Reid, which is fine. So they just have all this lineup versatility. They have their own apex predator superstar outside of 1 and 2. So in my opinion, love LeBron, right? But Luka's the best player in the series. Ant is the second best player in the series. LeBron is the third best player in the series. Okay, let's call Reeves the 4th best player in the series. From then on, pick your next player. It's a T-Wolf, like pretty much. It's a T-Wolf. So I think the collective power of the Minnesota roster and their lineup versatility, the fact that they're healthy, I think this team not only can beat the Lakers, as you see on your screen, I think they'll win in the next round. I think we see Minnesota in the conference finals. So they're a huge target for me in these playoff best ball drafts because of kind of all that. I think they have all the pieces they almost made the conference finals last year, and it was a worse team, in my opinion. I'm kind of planting my flag with Minnesota. So I could easily get buried by Luka Doncic and LeBron James, but same thing could have happened with Joel Embiid and Giannis Antetokounmpo and Kevin Durant last year. It's not always the team with the best player or the top 2 players. Sometimes everybody has their flaws. I definitely wouldn't say they can't shoot. But I think their lineup is pretty awesome. But I'm a huge DiVincenzo fan. I'm a huge Nickeil Alexander-Walker fan. I think Alexander Walker needs he needs a better publicist because that dude rocks on both ends of the floor. He'll guard Luka. He's going to guard Luka quite a bit in this series. I think certainly he's going to guard Reeves, but he's given Luka some fits. Alexander Walker has. I'm not a big Conley guy, even though he's a great vet. He's an awesome person, human being. But in terms of basketball player, he's whatever. And Jaden McDaniels has taken a nice step this year, I think. So it's of course going to come down to Ant. Ant can't go full superhero mode and just not look at his teammates. But I think those teammates are for real. Barely even mentioned Naz Reid, who could just come in and get 25 or 30 in any one of these games off the bench. They could play Randall at the 5. They could play Gobert and Naz and go double big. They could play Naz. They have just so much versatility in how they can deploy their lineups, and they'll always have 5 good players on the floor in those lineups. They don't have to sacrifice anything. They don't got to go to Sam Hauser or something like that to get into those lineups. They have thank you, Alex. Wolves are top 5 in three-pointers made and 3-point percentage. So I definitely think that they can shoot. So anyway, now Rockets Warriors. So we just ranted for 15 minutes. We're definitely going to be running long on this show, but hey, we only get to do the NBA playoff best ball thing once a year. We moved from a controversial pick of Minnesota over the Lakers to a significantly more controversial pick of the Houston Rockets over the Golden State Warriors. Look, I get it. It's kind of the same thing. Like I'll be more brief on this one. It's kind of the same thing as the roster of the Rockets, the way in which they can play defense, the physicality that they bring to the game, and the Warriors being quite poor in a lot of those areas, combined with the home court advantage that Houston has. I mean, the hype is going to be absolutely nuts there, getting back to the playoffs, being in the 2 seed, hosting the Warriors. Are you kidding me? Even in that play-in game against a disastrous, the Memphis team has just gone in the toilet. And Steph playing awesome and Jimmy dropping almost 40 points. They still couldn't really pull away from the Grizzlies. Look, you're not going to find much of a bigger Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry fan than me. Those are 2 of my favorite players ever. And I have a bunch of Warriors bags on Underdog from before all this happened and they fell into the play-in. But I just think that especially from an exploitable opportunity perspective, no one is giving the Rockets are the 2 seed and no one is giving them a chance. From a schematic standpoint, if Steph is not going full Steph, which look, it's Steph, dude. He can do whatever in any game. It's kind of similar to these other ones. Like Jokic could win them that series, even though I like the Clippers. Luka and LeBron and Reeves could win the Lakers that series. Steph and Jimmy could win the Warriors this series. There's no question. That's why they're favored in the betting markets. The problem is, Kuminga is out of the rotation. They don't have any real shooting outside of Steph Curry. The burden on Steph is higher in their actual playoff teams. They've missed the playoffs before, and the burden has probably been higher on him. But the offensive burden on him is just absolutely ridiculous because they can't really play, their other shooters in Buddy Hield, and so it's like Moody and Pajemski are their next best shooters. The Rockets have probably the single best Steph defender on the planet. Amen Thompson is if you crafted a dude in a lab to guard Steph Curry, he's it. We saw that in the not to just draw conclusions from that last game, but I've never really seen someone put the clamps on Steph like Amen did in that game. 1 for 10 from the field and just absolutely all over Steph. They will make adjustments. Steph will definitely make adjustments, and he's going to have good games in this series. Undoubtedly, Jimmy will be fine, right? Draymond will be maybe fine. We'll see. I just think that the Rockets, this is the matchup. The Warriors needed that Clippers game, in my opinion. And I think you saw them treated as such, that they did not want to go to the play-in. They did not want to play the Rockets. They definitely wanted the rest, because also if you've seen, Steph's wearing a splint on his shooting hand. Now it's not impacting him. But like once every game he gets hit and you see him, and he's over on the bench, keeled over, holding his hand. Like he hasn't gotten any rest. He's got an injured hand. Draymond went to the locker room. Jimmy Butler is like limping around out there. They're not playing Kuminga. I just think there's too many issues with this Warriors team that, given the matchup advantages that I see for the Rockets, I'm going to side there. I know that their half-court offense is terrible. I'm well aware, but I think that they can just grind out enough buckets, making life miserable on the Warriors. So from then on, it gets pretty simple. Thunder over Clippers, Timberwolves over the Rockets. As I mentioned, those would be a really incredible series. And then I'm going to take the Thunder over the Timberwolves. I think it would be easy to convince ourselves that anybody here in the West can win, and I do believe that they can. I will say I think the path for the Thunder was better than they probably thought it might be. The Clippers always have the unknown, Kawhi missed practice today. Oh, Kawhi's questionable for game 3. It's 1-1. We're going into game 3 and like, Kawhi's knee is acting up, and I'm drafting a bunch of Kawhi, but I'd be lying if I said that wasn't a risk. That's very real. So as much as I love the Clippers, as much as I love the Timberwolves, and I'm drafting those guys. That's the beauty of playoff best ball, is I'm not drafting my entire team with only one team from the West and one team from the East. We can pair some teams together, and I love the prices on these teams that I straight up think are going to win: Clippers, Timberwolves, Rockets. Whereas Jokic, right, first rounder, Lakers, 2 guys going in the first round. Steph goes ahead of Ant, et cetera, et cetera. We're getting really good prices on these guys that kind of fits perfectly into how we want to construct teams. We get our Celtics or Cavs or Thunder at the top. We backfill with Pacers and Timberwolves and Rockets and Clippers. And, we can pair these things together. Maybe at the very end, right, you toss on your Carusos or your Hausers or whatever. And all the kind of strategy in the draft feeds into each other with these specific teams, right? The Rockets are totally free outside of Şengün and Amen, and they're not even expensive. The Timberwolves outside of Ant are completely free, and Ant goes in the 20s. Like you can just get these guys: Harden, Kawhi, Zoo. The other thing I will say, all of these teams, which we will see this pain, especially on drafters, we're going to see this pain. The forward / wing on underdog, forward on drafters position can get really dicey. You only have, let's say, I obviously am picking Celtics and Thunder to play in the finals. So that's the finals matchup I'm going to draft for the most. Well, there's only Jaylen Brown and Jalen Williams as wings or forwards. Aaron Wiggins and Sam Hauser are the other forwards on those teams. On drafters, Aaron Wiggins is a guard. So there's only 3 forwards that, in my opinion, will be in the rotation, because I don't think Jalen Williams will. The other Jalen Williams will be in the rotation. So, like, you on drafters, you may just have to deal with the fact that you're only going to get 1 forward in the finals. If you take SGA, you might only get Sam Hauser as a forward in that matchup in the, you know what I mean? So it's one of those weird quirks where the Rockets having Amen, and frankly, even like Jabari and Tari Eason later, Minnesota having Randall and McDaniels, the Clippers having Kawhi, right? These guys being the Pacers that we talked about before, having Siakam. Like, we have wings available on these other teams that can really help us, not only when we don't get Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum or whatever, but last year you weren't even using Jaylen Brown's score in the first few rounds. We might need 2 rounds of points from Kawhi or from Amen, right? Jimmy Butler also qualifies, right? If you disagree with, you want to take the Warriors. And like I said, I have a bunch of Warriors bags. Steph, Jimmy. I think Jimmy was at one point my highest owned player on Underdog. I was in on the Warriors. I'm just flipping that now to the Rockets as the field is getting more excited about the Warriors. Some super quick. Let me just go back to the homepage, see if I missed anything on the underdog side. I think that mostly covers it. But if we go to the underdog strategy piece, of course, you can check this out yourself. I believe I made it free on on the site. We walked through the breakdown. Yeah, when we kind of just talked about, right, the positional nuances. Just make sure, if there's one tip I give more than anything, is even if you have your team takes, right, you agree with me, disagree with me, that's fine. You like the Lakers or you like the Warriors or, what have you. You like the Nuggets. You need to understand what each team brings to the table from a positional standpoint. Like in this instance, so I mentioned the Celtics and Thunder thing. Like if you want to get a Celtics Thunder matchup, you better be thinking about, because they're expensive. They don't have very many options. You only have a couple at each position, right? From a big perspective, you have very expensive Chet Holmgren and Kristaps Porzingis. And then you have a little bit cheaper Isaiah Hartenstein, and then you have a little bit cheaper Al Horford. From the wing position, right? Once you get to Sam Hauser or maybe Aaron Wiggins on Underdog, there are no more wings for that matchup available, right? The Cavaliers at the wing position, they got two bigs and they got two guards, and you can throw Ty Jerome in there. DeAndre Hunter, right? Unless you're going to draft Isaac Okoro or something, DeAndre Hunter is the only wing, the only forward available for the Cleveland Cavaliers. So if you're planning around a matchup, you better be ready to maybe reach on DeAndre Hunter or just ignore, or I got to get my wing from my Western Conference team that I'm playing for the finals, understanding what each team and how they fit together, right? The Clippers plus the Cavs. Okay, I probably want Kawhi. Maybe I don't need Zoo on this team or whatever. Like pairing your teams and then looking at what positions they bring and what ADP all those players have. Like instead of just picking the guy at the top of the list that looks good, you got to be constantly planning ahead for what you need from each team from each position. It's a little bit easier on Underdog, but still, you're still going to run into some of those issues. Let's get ready here. I will share my screen and we can go ahead on over to Underdog, get into the dance. Wow, almost full. Let's see. I missed a lot of comments. We'll catch up on you guys' comments now. I apologize. Charles, for one-offs and or advanced pieces, do you focus on projected games played in a series each round? I do not, because I don't think we can predict it. Now, I shouldn't say that. I'm not drafting. I know you'll see some people draft like Paolo, maybe Hero or Bam, right? Certainly, the Grizzlies guys not looking so good against the Thunder. I'm not drafting the teams that are like almost for sure going to get their asses kicked. I'm not drafting those guys. For the one-off advanced pieces, it's kind of some of the teams that I talked about before in those more actual closely contested games. So that's kind of what you're referencing here, but I'm not thinking about it in that way. I'm just thinking about, I want my advance rate pieces or one-offs that you do need at times. I would love to correlate them as much as possible, right? Like if I'm using Siakam as a one-off piece, I would love to add Miles Turner, because if they go 7 games, I get 2 advance rate pieces for one team. Amen and Şengün or Jalen Green, Minnesota, right? Ant, Randall, Gobert, Naz Reid. The Warriors could be Jimmy, Draymond, using those guys as advanced rate pieces. And of course, the Knicks also fit there. I think I've taken a small sprinkling of the Pistons, a little more so Duren than Cade, because I often need a big man more than I need a guard. But there's certain times where maybe your guards are like Drew and whatever, and you need a guard one-off. I think the Pistons are okay in that sense as well. Picking out of the 106, I actually love let's see here. So I won't lie to you guys. I always take Jalen Williams. I have Jalen Williams ranked at the 105, I believe. So I'm definitely going to take Jalen Williams, and then I want to see what my exposure looks like with Jalen Williams if this updates. I haven't. Yeah, I don't know that I've done. I don't know that I've done J-Dub and Mitchell. Let's do that. I do so much Celtics. Let's try a little Cavs for once. I sat here and said I'm going to draft some Cavs, and I can't help myself with every draft taking the Celtics and the Thunder. So let's go. Let's go with little Donnie. I do like that pairing though, because if you think about that final, J-Dub's like easily the highest scoring wing. SGA is going to outscore Mitchell, but Mitchell can, the combination of J-Dub plus Donnie is probably better than Shea and DeAndre Hunter. So like that little 2v2, this is probably the optimal start for a Thunder Cavs, just because you're going to get the wing points, even though SGA projects to outscore Mitchell. It's funny. I know Artem's a Rockets guy, and I've come around on it. When I wrote my very original article a couple weeks ago, maybe now a week ago, the seating was different, and I thought we were going to get clips. I thought we were going to get Clippers Rockets, in which I would have picked the Clippers. So the Warriors was like the one draw where I just really like that matchup for Houston. So I'm in. Unfiltered, just checking in. Cheers. Welcome. Mike Gonley. I like that. I'm stealing that, by the way. Definitely consider it stolen. Okay. I should have been paying attention. What do we say? Shoot. Jared Allen went. God damn it. You guys. I'm already screwed. I legit can't get a big. Okay. Pivot. Let's do. I'm just going to do Ant because I'm in a panic mode. And we might have to build this for Cavs, T-Wolves, which does give me the, Gobert, Randall, etc. Is Garland gone? Yeah. Holy shit, guys. All right, so let's build around just Mitchell, and let's do we're gonna have some fun here. This is a team like I have not drafted. So trying to pivot inner draft here to get into my mind what I'm thinking here as this is as I'm getting screwed in the in this draft. Obviously the plan was Cleveland and OKC. All the Cleveland and OKC guys got wiped out. So I think the right way to play it is to play Mitchell as my essentially only. Now, Ty Jerome or DeAndre Hunter and those guys are possible if need be, but basically fill my wing and big position from teams in the West and end up playing this for what I've done is played it for Cleveland plays either Minnesota or Houston in the finals. Is kind of what I'm looking at. I mean, good God, this did not go my way. That is for damn sure. Yeah, I like this. Unfiltered says, I did a few Cleveland versus all the possible. Give me all the Cavs, but give me all the wings from the West. I think he says he must have been stoned, but I don't know. I've probably done it sober. You'd like the positional stuff feels crazier this year. Like last year, I just felt like, I don't know, the Celtics got everybody. The Mavs had Kyrie, Luka, PJ Washington, Gafford, Lively. Like, I don't know. It didn't feel that difficult positionally last year. The Pacers had three guys at all three of the positions: Halliburton, Siakam, Turner. The Knicks had guys at every single one of the positions. It was like kind of smooth, you know what I mean? Like even the Nuggets had T-Wolves had guys at all the positions. This year, that is not the case. Like you really have to think about how each team's positions, like how the puzzle pieces come together. It's much tougher than you think. Don't do it. MLB, if you're watching this, I know you're in the Discord. MLB Syndicate. All right, good. All right, so I know I need Amen on this team. That's for sure. And probably Jalen Green. And then come back for the, yeah. It's, man, that sucks because I would really like Halliburton. But nonetheless, I'm just trying to think about. Yeah, it's Jalen Green. So see, now I've got 3 Rockets plus Mitchell. So I need one more for that final. But then I need my Minnesota. I need my Minnesota guys. The nice thing about Minnesota is you would prefer Randall over McDaniels, and you would prefer Gobert over Naz Reid. You see, I have a bunch of Gobert, but also a little sprinkling of. I should zoom this. I'm sorry. Like I got 43% Gobert and 10% Naz. And same thing with Randall, 29%, but 14% McDaniels, right? And then there's even DiVincenzo. Like I said, I'm not so much on Conley. I don't know that I would ever draft Mike Conley in this unless something absolutely crazy happened. But I have drafted Isaiah Joe, so I shouldn't say I can't draft Mike Conley. But this is the beauty of Minnesota, man. Like these guys are all dirt cheap, like dirt cheap, and you can cover every single position. You know, you would like to have Ant, but like shit, man. Even if you don't if you somehow have a team that doesn't have Ant, there's worse things than having some of these cheap Minnesota guys. Let's see. So then I should go ahead and toss my Cleveland guys in my Cleveland guy, Ty Jerome. Yeah, I guess true. I shouldn't have misspoke earlier. Max Strus is a wing on Underdog. Man, Halliburton at 39. Shit. Fuck, there goes Randall. You guys suck. I know you guys are watching this. All right. Gobert top of board. Let's see if there's anything else we can or want to do. Could do. It's possible to do Horford. But no, I need to take Gobert first and foremost for sure. No, I need to just. I know it's early. I totally understand it's early, but I need to have Jaden McDaniels on this team. I'm not willing to. Somebody already took Randall. I just need to get my. Gotta take your medicine. Sometimes getting the team. That's one thing about playoff best ball. Like in our regular season best ball contests, we'll push it. Try to extract as much ADP value. Like in maybe early on in playoff best ball drafts, like early rounds. I mean, that can be interesting because that's a way to get unique combinations of players that nobody else has. That's how you're the only team with that certain combo in the finals. Like in the 8th round, in the 9th round, like, oh no, I didn't get Miles Turner. Whatever am I going to do about that? It's not that big of a deal. I'm going to put Miles Turner in the old queue. And there goes Miles Turner. Let's see here. Not bad. This ain't bad. Little J-Dub one-off. So I could toss I'm trying to think. Yeah, this is 100% true. Alex says McDaniels is a good Minnesota piece when drafting, secondary stacks or full stacks of Minnesota because he has the safest minutes on the team. He's the best defender on the team. He's their core 3 and D player, and he's mandatory for every single lineup construction that they have. So we're definitely going to take Naz, and now we got some freedom. See if there's anything we really need. Wing is pretty good. I think it's probably Fred. Yeah, it's Fred, I think. Just look for a flex. I mean, we have Mitchell Edwards. That's pretty darn good. But I think that's the correct way to play it is correlate some Houston stuff. I will say Yeah, I mean, I don't really think Jalen Green's going to get benched for the playoffs. I think if they're going to make a run, he's similar to like how McDaniels is mandatory for Minnesota. I mean, they have the versatility to do it. And to this point, I'm drafting. That's part of why I went to Van Vliet is if something happens to to Jalen Green, it kind of backfills Green with right. If Jalen Green misses like as a pick, he's a whiff. But they still advance. It's because of Van Vliet. And to your point, Jabari and Eason. I like Jabari and Eason a little more so on drafters, which we'll get to here in just a second. But I like the Houston wings are freely available / forwards are freely available in the last round, and they're pretty solid in terms of fantasy production. If you get 6 or 7 games out of them in a round, you can absolutely use their score. Amen is of course my favorite, but that's another great perk of Houston. Is like I think Amen is the real standout, like maybe even more so than Şengün, only because Şengün's a little bit pricier. You can just mix and match these guys and run hot on some minutes or some production. We know what Tari Eason can do in a limited amount of minutes, and we know Jabari Smith has been really strong down the stretch. And like you said, Van Vliet's going to play, but he also has outs to like running the show for the whole game. So anyway, we got derailed. We got derailed here, but we powered through. We're never down. We're never out. We may be down for a second, but we're never out in the playoff best ball drafts. We started with Mitchell and Jalen Williams, hoping to set up the Cavs and the Thunder in the finals. That did not work. Thanks to all of you assholes in the draft with me, and we had to pivot. So with really nothing left in the Eastern Conference to go to, like I could have possibly tried the Pacers. I would rather go to the West and look to build around a Mitchell team that has some different options from the West, which is what we did with Minnesota and Houston. So now I'm set for either Minnesota, right? We got 4 Minnesota guys, we got 4 Houston guys, and which is I don't know what I was talking about with Fred. Of course I needed Fred. But it could have been Eason or Jabari. Nonetheless, we needed to fill around Donovan Mitchell, and that's what we did with a little one-off Jalen Williams. Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniels, Rudy Gobert, Naz Reid from Minnesota, and Jalen Green, Fred VanVleet, Amen Thompson, and Alperen Şengün from the Rockets around Donovan Mitchell and a Jalen Williams one-off. So there's the underdog team. Really quickly, let's talk a little bit of drafters and pop into one of those. This should be, we covered most of this stuff already, so this shouldn't be too long. But just really quickly, if you've never played on drafters, first of all, what are you doing? It is a cumulative scoring site. And like I said, if you haven't played, we do have a 100% deposit bonus if you use promo code SPIKE when you sign up. SPIKE, that is it. Use that code when you spike. use that code when you sign up, and you can deposit up to $100 and they will match it for you. So you can get almost 10 free drafts into this. And if you do 10 drafts into either their NBA or NHL playoff best ball contest, you'll get a free ticket. They have some milestones, draft 10, 25, 50, 100. You get free tickets along the way. If you max it, you get a bunch of free dollars from drafters. So it's a pretty good deal. Use promo code SPIKE. But 12 rounds on go ahead, Jamie. You'll enjoy it, I think. If you're tuned into this NBA playoff best ball, the drafters one is really, really fun. So like I said, 12 rounds instead of 10. And the if you're in the Discord here, let me if you have not signed up for drafters, go to spikeweek.com, click this claim now. It'll ask you to fill out some information and to make sure you go deposit on drafters and fill out that information there on that link, that claim now link, and you can get a free month of Spike Week. Oh, beautiful. Jamie, you're MLB. I got you. Yeah. Hit me up in Discord. Sign up, do both of those 2 steps. and we got you. Let me pull back up the draft. So anyway, 12 rounds, right, instead of 10. So that's a unique variable. And you start 2 guards, 2 forwards, 1 center, and 1 flex. So much in each round, right? Because you got to fill 2 guard spots and 2 forward spots. And so you are trying to beat every single, right? All 5,000 teams in this tournament are your opponents. And you need to score the best, not just get the top 2 of my pod and move on and make my way to the finals. No, you got to score well in every single round. So that doesn't change maybe as much as some other people think, probably, but it does mean some of these one-off pieces can matter. And not, like I said, not just like Paolo, because he's going to score well in his games for the Magic, but I did a draft right before this, and I'll give an example that I drafted like a one-off Josh Hart on the team because I was a little weak at guard. In terms of like, I'm trying to even remember who my first guard was. I think I had Ant also on that team. So like I have Ant, but then I had like Drew and Caruso, and it's like, I might need a, Knicks go 7 in round 1. Josh Hart scores really well, and he hits my lineup in round 1. Even if they lose, so be it. And maybe in round 2, I need him. There's a place. And it's not that there's not a place for those guys on Underdog, but I think it's worse on Underdog than it is on Drafters. So there's I still want to get a full roster of 6 guys from the 2 teams that are going to be in the finals. Fill all 2 guards, 2 forwards, a center, and a flex as best as possible. It's a little less, like I said, it's a little less strict. And a lot of that is because when we go down to the move past the breakdowns here and go down to, again, the positional nuances, you can read all of this again for free on the site. Go check that out. But excuse me, the forward stuff is gnarly on Drafters. Like it again is so important for some of those teams. Like even if you don't like the Rockets or you don't like Minnesota, or you don't like the Pacers or whatever, like those pieces can be critical on Drafters where, like, man, even if they lose in the first round, the Cavs don't have a wing beside a forward besides DeAndre Hunter. The Thunder really only have J-Dub, Jalen Williams. The 2 Celtics forwards go in the first round. There's just forward dies on the very best teams so quickly. It's Jalen Williams, Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown. And like that's really it in terms of forwards that are going to put up a bunch of points on the 3 best teams in the league. So all of these other forwards, like we got to think about if you do a Thunder Celtics thing. My ideal start is actually not Tatum, although Tatum is I will say, because of some of this, if you go look at the rankings, Tatum is my 101. And because of the forward issues, if you draft a Shea team out of the 101, it's painful. It's really, really painful because you're just not going to be able to pair them with the Celtics and the Cavs and make a team that you feel very good about. And so my ideal start, honestly, is a J-Dub and Jaylen Brown, and just lock up the forwards from that team right from the jump and figure out the rest. But there's tons of those little positional things, and we'll check out some of those when we get into the draft. But I talked kind of about how much more important, again, not that they're not important on Underdog, but how much more important the kind of one-offs and secondary stacks are with how important those positions are. Let's go ahead and share my screen while I'm loading this up. If you're still in here watching, God bless you. An hour and a half on the NBA playoffs. I can't believe it. On Drafters also. All right, we're 2 of 6. I'll be 3 of 6. Let's crank one of these puppies out. We need 3 more. Also, go ahead and hit that like button if you're still sticking around and you have not yet. Whew. What a time to be alive. Let's see. Oh, wow. That filled quick. Shout out to you guys. Yep, you can definitely get creative. There's ways to nice the 102. I just said that, and now I just said how we definitely got a friends and family draft here. I just said how Tatum is my 101, so he's certainly going to go 101 now. I see you, Mark. I know you're Sky for rebound. I see Wydad in here. I see Mark in here. Friends and family draft for sure. Yeah, with the Rockets, double big. The Şengün Adams lineup is like hilarious. Absolutely hilarious to be playing Alperen Şengün and Steven Adams together on an NBA team that's the 2 seed in the vaunted Western Conference. Like, that's just nuts, man. It's absolutely nuts. Let's move this up a little bit. Zoom this a little bit. Yeah, this is definitely a concern that I have because I barely drafted Jokic. As you see, I have 11% Jokic. Yeah, I don't have much else to add. If I mean, he could break drafters in round 1 if they go 7 and just score so many points, while SGA and Tatum, right, and Brown and Jalen Williams, like let's just envision this scenario. The Celtics and Thunder just like sweep their way to the finals, right? Maybe the Cavs do, whatever. Those guys just like aren't scoring very many points because they're not playing very many games in the first couple of rounds. The Lakers lose, right? Because that's the other early guys. Lakers lose, so there's your first round. Jokic scores 1 million. Oh, nice. All right, I'm taking Tatum. Jokic does go 101 here, and I'm taking Tatum. Jokic scores 70 points a game in 7 games. He scores 500. He scores 500 points in the series against the Clippers. Like, if they win, and he does that, and then like God forbid they go 7 with the Thunder, it's like, yep, that's why he goes this high, even though he's not on one of the best teams. It's understandable. I'm betting against that, but I could get wiped out for sure. Like on Underdog, that doesn't matter so much. 2 out of 6 advance from the first round. So, okay, let's concede the Jokic team beats me. I can still advance without him. And then if they lose, there's going to be a whole bunch of Jokic teams in the next round, and I can survive without him. But drafters, buddy, might get ugly for my underweight stance on Jokic, but we shall see. It is nice to know like what you need when you're in your first, like when you draft Jokic, like obviously you're betting on the Nuggets winning, but like you don't ever need another center if you're going to build around the Nuggets, like making it to the finals. Maybe you toss up whatever Horford or something on there and bet against it. Whereas like Tatum, I'm like, I don't know. I'm probably not going to use Tatum's score till the second round, maybe the third. Totally changes your mindset on what you're targeting. You know what I mean? Okay. I love Derek White, obviously, but I have him on 50% of Tatum teams. I got to think about if I want that. Mobley is interesting. I'm going to take Derek White first. I actually would be intrigued to take Mobley. Wow. Jokic and Giannis. Guys, I respect it. But I would actually be intrigued to take Mobley and like, all right, Cavs and don't waste your breath, dum-dum. Don't waste your breath. Let's see. Do I build for the I'm going to need Hauser later, and I don't have T-Dub or yeah, let's do it. Let's I was ranting about how difficult it is to build Celtics Thunder teams. I might as well try it, and everybody can see how insane this is. We shall find out, huh? But at least they got one of each position filled. Now Sam Hauser's got to be a priority, obviously. And the one nice thing about the Thunder that I do really, really like, especially on drafters, is they have a million guards that are available later that are going to be in the rotation. Specifically Dort, Caruso, and Cason Wallace. But Isaiah Joe is probably going to get in these games. How much is he going to play? I don't know, but he'll get in there. Wiggins. Wiggins is a guard on drafters, which is not ideal, but I have like 4 Thunder guards that I can add to a team to fill it out, right? So that's like how this will be. Is I'll look to try to get Hauser, and if I don't, we'll try to take a shot on Jalen Williams and pray to God he somehow gets in a finals game. But I also would consider only having 5 guys for the finals and just having Tatum at forward. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Wydad says Giannis Jokic. Imagine if they both advance, they may score so many points. You get such a head start on the OKC, Cavs, Celtics teams. I would like to get one of that combo. I think that's more than reasonable, because you could also like backfill with a bunch of Thunder or something. You get 2 rounds of Jokic, but then you have like Wiggins and Caruso and Dort and those guys, or you could go to the cheap Celtics, Horford, Pritchard, Hauser, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, I'm going to need early big man production. Harden also looks good on this team. Ooh, I take a lot of Siakam on these teams, huh? Let's do Şengün again. You can see I take a lot. Ooh, look at this. 100% of my Tatum teams have Halliburton. 100% of my Tatum and White teams have Halliburton. Same thing. I'm in 100% of my Tatum. You can see I have a so that is the question. Wowzers. I take all of these same guys. What's this, 0? Yeah. All right, let's do Siakam then. I don't have Siakam. So the power of the draft hacker. I have this third number here that I'm hovering over that you see 100% Al Horford is my percentage of that player when I drafted both those round 1 and round 2 picks, which is Jason Tatum and Derek White. So when I took Jason Tatum and Derek White, I had Al Horford on all of those teams. I had Tyrese Halliburton on all of those teams, but I had not taken Pascal Siakam on that team. And you can see why I'm doing that, right? I have a clear need at my second forward spot, but also at guard, because Derek White is not like some mega high scoring guard. So I need to get some production from those guys, at least in the first round, maybe in the first 2 rounds. So, right, that's why Halliburton makes sense. That's why Amen makes sense. That's why, but that's also why Siakam makes sense. And so there's no reason to not have Siakam on those teams. We'll see if we can land this plane. I do have our rankings in here, so it is not off ADP. I have a very big bag of Zoo here. Okay, so I have Horford on this. Okay, so I need to take Dort because I have Horford. Like, I kind of have this combo of stuff already, right? But the one thing I will say is where's Hauser at? Okay, hold on. I got to decide if I try to take Cade and I don't think I can push Hauser. Yeah, I just gotta take Hauser. Such is the life of see, like I could have tried to push Hauser all the way to pick 47, but and to take you know, but to take who, right? Another forward, Randall, Miles Turner, Horford, Zoo. Like I have Zoo and Horford ranked ahead, but I need the forward because I need right Boston and OKC. So now I have 4 of those guys. At least I have I have 5 of those guys. I have all the positions filled. But now I need some juice, especially at guard. I mean, look at my guards. They're terrible. So got to find a way to get, any upside in some guards. And again, that's the difficult part of this type of a build. Like I'm good. Like we just bet on Şengün. We're cool at center. And I have, Siakam, and I could use some forward juice if Tatum doesn't play, a ton of games in the first 2 rounds. But that's right. This is the puzzle of putting these guys together. But I don't particularly enjoy. I probably need Fred on this team. There just isn't really, we got to. Let's go back to. Maybe I do the Rockets thing. Yeah, maybe we just go full ham Rockets here, and go to. Yeah, because he took the 101, took Jalen Green and Cade from me. There just isn't. I just got to go and pray that, the Dylan Brooks of the world or Jabari. So I don't have Jabari. I'm going to do Jabari because I don't have Jabari with like any of these guys. Whereas I do have some Eason with Tatum. And then I need to make sure I get my last Thunder guy. I don't really care who it is. Wiggins, Caruso, Case and Wallace. So that's 9. My 10th player will be a Thunder guy, and then find as much upside as I could possibly find at probably guard, but there ain't much out there, man. I'm gonna put Ty Jerome in there. Maybe they look at the Ty Jerome game logs. By the way, he's nuts, man. Just instant offense. He's so fun. I'm gonna put Christian Brown in there. Like, I think it's fair that something could. I'm gonna put, these guys. Woof. It's rough. It's a tough scene. I think Nemhard's on here somewhere. Yeah. See, this is where I wonder if the correct 2v2 when I took Hartenstein is, Ant, right? To get me just enough juice there. See, like people are sometimes you got to just pray Kenrich got to pray he plays. It's crazy. I take Caruso every time on this. Let's do Wallace. Move Caruso. So there's I've got my, God damn it. I should have taken Jerome. This is terrible. Yeah, see, this is the hard part. You get back to Mark says, I like my team so far. Maybe should have skipped Thompson, but I wanted his wing score. That's the thing. Like, yeah, your team looks awesome, by the way. But, like, the positional stuff is gnarly, man. You just get backed into corners sometimes. God damn. Are you watching D. Lou Tomsky? Because you keep taking out all the guys that I want. That's hilarious. Dylan Brooks it is. Come on down to this crappy group of guards Derek White, Lou Dort, Fred VanVleet, Casey Wallace, and Dylan Brooks. Yeah, you and me both. Why Dad says this draft got away from me. Oh man. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I got nothing. I guess. Oh Christ, Steven Caruso goes. I'll put Dante in there. You know what? Let's put Nikki, like, might as well, if I say I love Nickeil Alexander-Walker, I might as well put my money where my mouth is. If Conley is going to play fewer minutes, maybe we're getting these 30-minute a game Alexander-Walker games. The series goes 7. But it also, it could also be DiVincenzo. But let's at least take a guy who's literally nobody drafts Nickeil Alexander-Walker. If we're going to beg for a good round 1 score, we might as well do it with somebody that nobody else takes. Yeah, I think this draft got away from me a little bit too. I would like to have the Hartenstein pick back, I think. I think that is the appropriate pivot, probably. Turn Horford into the center on this team. If you want to have OKC, you can just do it with a bunch of the late guards, right? So the Boston would be White, Tatum, White, Horford, Hauser, and then like Wallace, Dort, Caruso, whoever. I think is probably the right way to play that, so that I have like Edwards or Halliburton or whatever guard. Like I just needed one more guard that's actually going to score some real fantasy points. So I think that is the little pivot there, but nonetheless, let's run it down from the draft board that you can see here on your screen for watching on YouTube. Picked out of the 102, Jason Tatum, Derek White, Isaiah Hartenstein, Alperen Şengün to fill that. We're chasing points once we take those Celtics and Thunder. We're going to try to make it up in the finals, but we're chasing points. We still need some points. Şengün and Siakam. I do take a lot of Amen Thompson, as you saw there on the draft hacker, but we're going to change it up a little bit. Go to the Siakam side. Dort. I also wonder if I should have taken Josh Hart. No, Josh Hart went right in front of me. I also wonder if I should have taken Cade. I probably should have taken Cade or Jalen Green right there. I think that was maybe even the bigger mistake. Try to get a big round 1 score out of Cade on this team. And I think like Dort is definitely going to outscore Wallace and Caruso most of the time, but it's not that significant enough of a difference that I lost the last guard. That's like both of them, the last 2 guards that can have a huge round 1 to carry this team. I lost it at the Dort pick. So Siakam, Dort, had to have Hauser, right? And that's okay because I didn't, I lost out on Zubats and Randall and stuff, but it was mandatory that this team had Sam Hauser if we wanted to fill out a full finals. And once I've already put myself behind in the first 2 rounds, I really do want to have that full finals roster because like I'm going to need to chase people down, right? When you build a Thunder Celtics team, you're not going to be near the top at the beginning. The goal is in the final 2 rounds to chase down the people who had Jokic and had Giannis and had, these higher scoring players, Cade, right? Because they don't have those guys anymore. And they're just like using Isaac Okoro's score. So, your goal is to come back in the 3rd and 4th rounds on drafters with a team like this that I built here. And so you got to have Hauser, right? You need those. Let's just say he scores 15 points a game in the finals. Like you need those. You absolutely need to have those. A good question. I'll get to it. Then we went to the Houston thing, right? And just like if I have Şengün, I'm using Şengün's center score. Let's try to see if they don't play 7 games, right, against the Warriors. And maybe I can use VanVleet's score, Jabari Smith's score, Case and Wallace rounded out my Thunder Celtics finals. And then Dylan Brooks, right? Houston, we're going to do the same thing. And then we went down for an undrafted player at the end. Again, just kind of hunting for if my take is Mike Conley's not going to play as much, and maybe this is an Alexander Walker series, maybe we get 30 plus minutes a game out of Alexander Walker. It's close enough, right? And he has a big one that, who knows, in a 7-game series could help me in round 1. Charisma says, did Pickett get drafted? No. Jalen Pickett did not get drafted. Quentin Post did, though. Quentin Post, Isaac Okoro. You see how bad it gets at the end on drafters. Kenrich, Dylan Brooks, N'Keal Alexander-Walker, Kevon Looney, Isaac Okoro, all these guys getting drafted over on drafters. It's rough. So this was a ton of fun. I'll let you guys get out of here, sticking around with me, talking the nuances of the NBA playoff best ball tournaments on both Underdog and Drafters this year. I will be back if you're watching live or on Thursday or Friday morning. I will be back tomorrow to do some more playoff best ball drafts. Noon Central Time, 1 p.m. Eastern. I'll be back right here on this channel, so hit that subscribe button. You'll get notified. Also hit the like on your way out, and we'll crank out some more drafts tomorrow before the action starts, before the fun starts on Saturday. I can't wait for it, but I also can't wait to do some more drafting with you guys. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.
Woo! Those were some spicy takes. Want to stay up to date with all of the other spicy takes we're going to have over here at Spike Week? Why don't you press that subscribe button below? You turn notifications on, we draft a team, boom, you know about it. We have another spicy take, boom, you know about it. You can be there, you can draft with us. You want to stay up to date? That's how you do it. All right, we'll catch you later next time here at Spike Week.